Before we start this video, I just wanted to say, because I say it a lot lately, or a lot in general, this video is a little different than what I normally do. This video consists of a lot of discussions when it comes to suspension setups, rather than working. I know that a lot of people want to see me work, and I guarantee that next week we are going to be welding and fabricating and just getting straight at trying to get something done. I didn't have a whole lot of time this week. That's the explanation. I don't know what to say. I apologize for rambling. This week's video is educational rather than just fabrication education, I guess, if that makes sense. So stick around. There's free stuff coming up. Welcome to the channel. My name is Crawford, and this is Virginia's for Lowriders. We're out here. We're working on the Ranger. Many excuses of why I haven't been out here this week. You know, the normal thing that everybody talks about this time of year, the heat and the terrible humidity that comes along with the heat, and, you know, just being tired and having grown-up responsibilities and things, stuff going on. No. But we're not here to complain. We're here for some pretty exciting stuff today. One thing that we're going to dive into a little bit, I got some stuff from a subscriber of mine that y'all would probably be interested in. A subscriber reached out to me. He said, "Hey man, I would like for you to use my tabs and my parts on your truck. Let me know some sizes, dimensions, and all these things. I'll cut them and I'll send them to you." And that's what happened. And they came in and they look great. He would like me to basically give his information, and hopefully y'all will purchase some stuff from him. So we'll go over that here in a few minutes. But I got thinking about the giveaway thing. We've been doing giveaways at every 100 subscribers. I've given away probably, I don't know, 30, 40 t-shirts, somewhere in that, since I started the channel. I want to change that. I don't think I want to do that anymore. At least not for a little while. Because I have other ideas. This has nothing to do with the companies that it's from. This has nothing to do with anybody else except for me feeling generous for y'all watching me week after week work in my little garage on whatever random stuff that I have to cut up. This is just me showing appreciation. I don't want to give away t-shirts anymore. I want to give away t-shirts and products. I got a deal on this stuff. I paid for it with my own money, and I'm going to send it to y'all for absolutely free. All it requires is clicking of buttons. All you have to do to enter for this, we have to hit the next 100 subscriber mark. That would be 4,800, I believe. Once we hit 4,800, I'll give away one t-shirt and one of these products. When we hit 4,900, I will give away one t-shirt and one of these products. When we hit 5,000, for total showing of gratitude from me to y'all, I will give away 5 t-shirts and 5 of these products for free. All you have to do is subscribe, hashtag at the bottom of the video, Virginia's for Lowriders. Not every video gets a winner, because not every video we hit that 100 mark. It would be awesome if we did. There's a lot of people that watch my video week after week. I can see the numbers. You're not subscribed and you're not commenting. That's all it takes. We're kind of in a split. There's people that I see week after week come, they watch the video, and they're not clicking the buttons. Maybe they don't want free stuff. If you don't want free stuff, don't do it. But I have This isn't super exciting. I think it's kind of exciting though. Not everybody loves these, but I have about 20 of these. I didn't carry them all out here. I got about 20 of these air filters. These are all brand new. Again, this has nothing to do with this product. These were not given to me. I paid for them with my own money. I got about 20 of these. They're all V8. They're all the same thing. V8 style, top hat, foam stuff, air cleaners. You've probably seen them 100 times. They look pretty cool. They're not for everybody. For my cold air guys or my fuel injected guys, I have two different styles, two different heights of air filters to choose from. I don't have 20 of these and I don't have 20 of these. So for the first couple things, if you were to win, I know this is a lot of talking, but it's free stuff. Again, just clicking the buttons. If you're to win, you have to email me, all the social medias, all of those things. Tell me what size. Tell me which one of these you want. What size t-shirt, which one of these you want if you were to win. Okay? So again, 100% for free. You get one of these air filters of your choice, plus a t-shirt, and some stickers. All you have to do, hashtag Virginia's for Lowriders, hit the subscribe button, and that's it. It doesn't cost you anything, and I'll send it to you for totally free. But let's get back to the other rambling of the video. Sorry, that was a lot. But hopefully you all want from some free stuff. All I'm saying, free stuff, clicking the buttons. As for the Ranger, as y'all saw before we got into this, I leveled the body, which I probably should have did in the beginning, but I was just worried about cutting stuff off and making sure that none of this got all twisted up, so I left it the way that it was. Body's level, it's on jack stands, it can't move. I put my post back in the back. Those are my gauges to make sure that the frame isn't twisting and bending as we're welding to it, because they're touching the ground right now. And if the frame was to twist and turn, they would lift or turn, that you would know, because they wouldn't be on the ground, or one of them wouldn't be on the ground. So with the truck level, I'm going over, I'm doing all the measurements, trying to get my instant center right. If all of this stuff doesn't make sense, there are some books and some articles that I can recommend, and it would help a lot. I'm not the best at explaining it, because I get a little tongue-tied when it comes to everything. I can show the basics. I'll give you a rough idea of where to go with this. I don't want to tell you exactly how to do it, because all the trucks, all the cars are pretty much the same idea, but they don't always lay out the same. My bar length is going to be different than your bar length. You might not have a Ranger, you might be working on something else. It's all the same general idea, but it's not the same measurements. So I'm going to give vague ideas of how I go about doing this and how I make it easier on myself. So, for one, we set everything up. We put our U-bolts in, our rear end's locked in. The reason we did it at full compression of the suspension is so I can make sure that I get my top height for everything and have clearance. I didn't want to set it up initially at the halfway travel mark, which is where we'll be getting some of our other measurements from. But as it is right now, if I didn't put this up here and I built my upper bar and did all my other things, and then I lowered the truck, there's a good chance that things would be in the way. That's why we start with the U-bolts in that place. The truck is level. It is level body line wise on the bottom of the cab. The frame is level back here. It's level side to side, level this way. Everything is set where it needs to be. Again, these are holding it in place to where it can't move anywhere. From there, for an instant center, for a general idea, throwing it out there, just a rough idea of how this works. The way that suspensions travel and the way that a bag truck would squat and the rear end would rotate and all of the things that need to jive together for it to ride correctly and for you to have correct pinion angle and all of those other things. This is different from drag cars. This is different from anything else. It's different from a trophy truck and all of those other random things that you would set up that have link suspension like this. As far as an adjustable suspension vehicle goes, bags and all of those things, this is just a general rough draft idea of what needs to happen. Whenever these bars intersect up here, the height that these two bars are from each other, that matters a whole lot. If they don't get that dimension right, and you have this bar way high or that bar way low, or they're too close together, during the range of motion of this, your pinion angle is going to change drastically. It's going to do weird things. It's going to squat when you take off from a light. It's going to do a ton of random things that you don't want it to do. So it's very important that you set this up correctly, because it's kind of like a building base for the rest of the suspension. When it comes to trying to figure that out, there's a website you can go to, and I'll put it in the description. It's a calculator by a man named Max Fish. He explains in his books very detailed ways about doing this correctly. I'm not even going to try and pretend like I know all of it, because I don't. I've set up a lot of 3-link and 4-link stuff, and I've done a lot of suspension work. I am not perfect at it. I'm still learning. I'm still trying different things. This one's a little different from anything that man talks about, because this is going to get like a foot of lift or more. Hopefully more. Hopefully more without having crazy pinion angle changes. That's what we're going for. That's the whole idea behind this. So if you drew an imaginary line from these tabs to these tabs, the spacing again matters on this side in correlation to that side. You need to know the measurement between your rear end and your front bumper. If you drew an imaginary line and you pretended that these turned into a triangle, and then you drew that infinite triangle out, and whenever they intersected and touched, generally speaking on a bagged vehicle or something that goes up and down, that imaginary line that comes all the way through here should complete itself at the front bumper. General rule of thumb again. It's not an exact science for every vehicle, but if it goes up and down and you have your normal bagged vehicle and it gets roughly 9 inches of lift, that's what you're shooting for. Somewhere around the front bumper. If it terminates at the transmission, if it terminates 20 feet in front of the truck is going to act differently. You'll get different kinds of suspension rolling. You'll get different types of, again, squatting, or when you take off from a light, you've seen some bag trucks with a lift up in the rear. And then whenever they're taking off from a light, they squat in their rear. Those are all things that come from not doing this very small mathematical thing that in this website that I put in the link, it figures out that number for you. It's very, very simplified, because that man is awesome, and he did basically all of the work for us. There's an equation. I'm not good at math. I'm not even going to pretend to be good at math. So you just jam in those numbers. He spits out what distance the bars need to be in the front, which I already did. I have this string line here as a general representation of this lower bar being continued to the front bumper. With this string line, I can actually see where that bolt, which I don't have it quite high enough yet, where that bolt, essentially this lower bar, would stop when it got all the way to the front. So I'm going to try to match that bar to this string line. Again, this is all changing per your bar lengths and heights of things. When I did the Mazda, if you go back and watch those videos, to get it all correct because of the location of the lower bar, it was a little complicated, because I tried to keep everything under the bed floor. I tried to keep the bars basically where the factory spring perch was. There was a lot of factors that went into that. This one's a little different. This one's kind of free range. I can kind of just make it up as I go, because I don't have those restrictions, because it doesn't lay on the ground, and it's not body dropped, and it's not all these things. it's just going up and down. But it's going up and down with a whole lot of lift. So I got to keep that into the entire mindset of while this is going on, I need to make sure it's perfect or close to perfect so that my pinion angle isn't pointing at the ground or pointing at the top of the seat, all of those things. And you see it a lot. Again, a lot of those problems can be solved if you take just a little bit more time while you're trying to set this up. So I'm not going to go into detail about how this truck particularly is, because this is nothing like, other than it following general idea of a bag truck or a normal up and down lowrider. That I'm not going for a lot of lift. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail of exactly my dimensions and all of those things, because I don't want somebody to follow this and be like, it's your fault that my truck rides like crap because I used a 6-inch lift bag and I don't know. You understand what I'm saying. I'm not taking the liability because it's case by case. This is a weird one. If the Mazda, roughly, you can kind of follow that video if you have a Mazda. So give a quick example. Again, don't follow my numbers. Quick example. You want to know the distance of where that lower tab bolt is, which is generally in the center of the rear end, in correlation with the front of the front bumper. I type in that number. I type in the distance of my lower link from bolt to bolt, and then after you get done with that, your upper link bolt and your lower link bolt distance, you type that number in and it spits out this number. It tells you exactly what you need to get this triangle to meet your front bumper. It's very straightforward. This is awesome information that I wish I would have had, I don't know, 15 years ago whenever I first started doing stuff, because there was a whole lot of trial and error back then. I got it right. I figured it out, but there was a whole lot of tack welding and there wasn't a lot of information on this. Back in the day, it was all off of forums, and there's a lot of opinions on forums, and forums kind of could steer you in the wrong direction. It sucks that all that information is gone because all of those forums have been deleted. But this is a lifesaver when it comes to this stuff, because it figures it out for you. It's simple. So now that we have that information, some people are going to be upset about this. I told y'all I'd let y'all vote, and it's on y'all. The majority vote between Instagram, Facebook, my messengers, all of the things. I calculated everybody's numbers for what they wanted me to do between a round bar and a square bar for the upper link. I told y'all I'd let y'all decide. Everybody sent in their things and told me exactly what they wanted. The majority was square. I said round, personally, but I can make the square look good. So that's what we're doing. That's the goal of today. We got it level. We're kind of running out of time already because I was so busy and doing random things this week. But we got it level. We have our dimension for our upper bar here. So we just need to make sure that it matches this width. And then we need to come up with whatever length that we're going to end up doing. And we also need to take into account the height for that measurement that we came up for this. It's a lot. There's a lot of talking, I understand, but I have a lot of questions. I'm trying to answer them as I go, because answering them in comments doesn't always translate into this actually making any kind of sense whatsoever. So one of the things that you can run into when it comes to setting all of these dimensions, let's just say you put all this in, and whatever you do, all of the numbers that it spits back and tells you the dimension that this needs to be, or the height that those two bolts need to be spread away from each other, is too much. For instances like my Mazda. My Mazda was a weird case because Mazdas have little frame rails. Mazdas are tightly packed and everything is very narrow. The frame rails are too close to the actual hubs. So you're very, very limited on space. When it came to that, the way that I was able to fudge the numbers and make it work was by taking these tabs in the rear, and I actually did this on the channel, you can go back and watch. I made a longer tab. I have a pretty detailed video on how you can make tabs in your garage with a hole saw and a grinder and a drill. It's very, very simple, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time. I just don't have a whole lot of extra time. As y'all see, I'm trying to do normal stuff and get out here. Sometimes it's a struggle, but we're out here. We're still getting it done. We're still doing something every weekend. Doesn't matter. Trying to get it knocked out. When it comes to this stuff, it's a little weird because most websites sell 3/16 because most bag trucks don't produce, like, let's just say the Mazda, for instance. It makes 70 horsepower. It doesn't make enough torque or horsepower to break anything. That thing is way, way overkill. The bars are 1.5 quarter wall. It is a very stoutly built little truck that makes lawnmower type horsepower. When it comes to this has a lot of stress behind it. With the tabs and trying to fudge the numbers and make it all work to where everything's going to jive together, and I'm pointing at the front and I got my instant center and my pinion angles right and all of those things, sometimes you need a longer tab. And I had mentioned in the video that I was going to need to order a bunch of random tabs, which is what I usually do because it's just quicker. I can get in here and I can just tag weld some stuff in place and be done with it. Most of the time, I can't make tabs for as much as they cost. The raw materials around here, it fluctuates, but if you just walk into a steel place, it's ridiculous sometimes. It'll cost me a lot of money to make tabs. It's actually cheaper. I did the math. It's cheaper for me to buy bag mounts than it is for me to physically make them myself. Not including labor or time or the consumables that I go through to make them. Just the raw materials, it's cheaper for me to order them off eBay. It makes no sense, but it is what it is. I can't help that. Regardless, I'm getting off track. I was reached out to by a subscriber named Corey. Corey's been watching my channel and he supports, and he said, "Hey man, I do plasma cutting. I have a business, my business called White Trash Fab. I would be interested in cutting you some tabs." I said, "That sounds great to me, man, because I want 1/4 inch thick tabs, not 3/16. And 1/4 inch thick tabs from places like Thorbeck and other places, sometimes it takes a long time. I'm not taking anything away from Thorbeck because he's a busy man and he's not running a huge show with a giant crew of people. It takes a long time to get stuff from him. Quality takes a long time though. So, with that being said, Corey said, "I can get it to you right away." I said, "Well, that sounds great. Let's just do that." I gave him multiple dimensions. I gave him 2 3/4, 3-inch tubing because my rear end's tapered. I wanted different heights. I wanted it to change from this top hole to the actual part where it mounts on the rear end. Different dimensions. He said, "No problem." He whipped them up very quickly. I said, "Man, I would like to brace my lower bars." I said, "Cool, I can do that." And he came up with his design in like 15 minutes. He hit me back and said, "Does this work?" I was like, "It's perfect." So Corey, with White Trash Fab, hooked it up. And I appreciate it. It's awesome. Thanks, dude. This is great. But I would like for anybody else that needs tabs or any random things cut, I imagine you can send him designs and he'll send you something to your house. It's all of his information will be in the bottom of the video. It'll be in the bottom of the, actually in the description, so you can click on it and send him an email. That's how he would like to be reached out to, is by email right now. I'm not sure if he's getting a website set up or anything like that, but if I get future information and things of other ways to contact him, I'll add it in a future video. But for now, we have a lot of tabs. We have a lot of options. We have different heights, different rear end dimensions. As you can see, the holes 1 inch higher on these versus those. Again, we have these braces. These will be here. It's like a truss to strengthen the lower bar. It's awesome. I appreciate it, Corey. And again, White Trash Fab, hit him up. He can take care of you, and hopefully we can see his business grow. We're supporting small businesses, what it's all about. And speaking of small businesses, anytime you see a roller shot in my videos, it's my boy from Tint Tech, Brent. he hooked it up. He gave me a 360 camera. So expect more roller shots. It's a little tricky around here getting somebody to record me while I'm driving down the road and other people not interacting with. I don't know. I have a 360 camera, so thank you, Brent. We'll be adding some more of those videos here shortly. So I went to the dollar store. Y'all gonna have to bear with me. I don't have computer abilities, and I can't make like a thing on the screen that shows how to do this. So we're gonna play a little arts and crafts today, and this is just me showing like a really basic. This is something you could do, and it might help you too because it's a lot cheaper than welding stuff and then cutting it back off. Bear with me. This is the arts and crafts version of explanation on how you could easily go about this to double check what you're getting back from the website and what you're translating into as far as setting this up and making sure your pinion angle is correct. This, again, this is a little different because of the amount of lift that this potentially could get. So no matter what you do, the rear end will basically be closer to the rear, away from the rear, closer to the rear. It's going to constantly move throughout its travel. We're just trying to mitigate basically pinion angle change. We can't eliminate the in and out. We try to restrict it some by designing this correctly, but it still changes. That's why we have slip yokes and other things when it comes to lowriders. It's just part of the game. It is what it is. You can't eliminate all of it because some of these cars with telescopic cylinders get 5 feet of lift or whatever it is. You'll see them driving around with the back of the car where you can literally walk under it. We're not doing all that. We're getting baby lift when it comes to hoppers, basically. We're just trying to make it as good as we can make it with what we got. So this is our arts and crafts session here. When we went on the app, we put in our numbers and it spit out for this distance with this length tab. These are 3.5s. We can change them to 4, whatever we need to change it to make all this work. But let's just say our 3.5s. Our 3.5s with the distance from the rear end to the front of the truck, the length of the bar and everything in here. This is what we got. This is where, hopefully you can see me over, yeah, you can see me over here. This is the distance, that's 7.5. We have our rear end. Let's just say that we have this pointed down 3 degrees to match the whole thing with the pinion angle. We're paying attention to this. We don't really care so much about the in and out. We do, but it, again, can't eliminate it all. But let's just pay attention to the pinion angle here. And through the motion, you can see the pinion angle isn't really effective. It just kind of chills in the same spot. Let's just say that you got this guy wrong. Let's go up to, let's raise it up 3 inches. Our pinion angle now, by the time we get down here, it's pointing at the ground. It is, actually you can't even see that, it's so far off. It's pointing at the ground. So by the time the transmission, let's just say this guy is the transmission and the drive shaft angle, by the time that met that, everything is not jiving too well. By the time we get up here, again, that's not too drastic, but again, this is terrible. This is what we usually see. So let's just change that back to the way it was. See how much less drastic that is? Just by changing that height a couple inches. That's not even, yeah, about 3 inches. Again, our drive shaft angle looks pretty good. It's not that bad. Like, this is reasonable. This is, the pumpkin's still pretty level with the ground at this point. Let's go inward. Now, we're pointing at the ground by the time we're all the way down. I come around here, That one looks okay, but it has the opposite effect. We're at the ground when it comes here. If we go back to where we were, which I have poked so many holes in here, I don't really remember. I think it's... No, definitely not that one. Go back to where we were. I think that's that hole. Again, looking pretty good. Let's just say you get your bottom bar off. Again, we're pointing at the ground. We come up here, we're pointing at the back seat, or back of the seat, because it's so messed up. This is why this is so important, to get all of this correct. And we have a nice range of motion here that's not totally messed up. Hopefully that all makes sense in that really simple dollar store arts and crafts project. One more thing to touch base on. I had a subscriber hit me up and ask me a question about this. Let's just say our upper bar is 3/4 of the length at least of the lower bar. Everything looks pretty good. Pinion angle's in a pretty good spot. He asked if the length of the top bar mattered as far as matching the upper, if it's going to mess anything up. So let's say this is the upper at the same length, 7.5. It's pretty much the same thing. You'd also, of course, have to factor that into your measurements and do all of the things, but as long as it's 3/4 of the length and you get your math right, it's all doable. Like, it's not going to affect it that much. Hopefully all that makes sense. So the reason I do the 3/4 of the length most of the time is because of space. So this is the case in most instances, unless you're working on a full-size crew cab truck with an 8-foot bed. If it's mini truck related, car related, you're limited on space. And the farther you push that top bar underneath the cab of that car, underneath the cab of that truck, the more complicated it's going to be. I usually try and shoot for that at least 3/4 mark, because usually it alleviates a lot of problems. So for instance, I'd like to put it here so I don't have to cut into my exhaust and I don't have to modify a bunch of stuff, because I like the way that this is laid out. If I was to move this mount to the length of the lower bar, which would be all the way up here, it's basically going to be something similar to this piece of 2x2 welded to the frame. Then I'm in that vicinity of trying to make things work around other things. If I can gain a little bit of room by moving it back a couple inches and it helps the overall build, that's most likely what I'm going to do. Again, back to the Mazda. The Mazda, there is no room. So that one was, I had to get really creative with that. Well, I went inside, I ate lunch, and edited everything that I had, and I managed to talk for like 34 minutes. I apologize, I get a little carried away. Hopefully in all of that information, something was good that you picked up. And hopefully I didn't misspeak, because I generally tend to do that. Last week I said something about the bars, that you want it 3/4 of the way. I want the top bar to be 3/4 of the length of the lower bar, and I meant to say it should be at least 3/4 of the length of the bottom bar. Again, I get to rambling, just like word vomit, I guess. So I'm going to see y'all next week. We're going to get to work. We're going to get 100% cutting and welding, grinding, fabricating, getting stuff done. I think I answered all of the questions. If there's any more questions, or if I misspoke, let me know in the comments. Subscribe for the free stuff. Do the button clicking thing. And I'll see y'all next week. Hopefully I got all of that out correctly. And hopefully I answered all of the questions. And I appreciate you sitting through all of that, because I know it was a lot. But if I went through every detail of this that's jumbling around in here, it's probably hours of talking, and I tried to consolidate into 30 minutes. So, appreciate y'all watching. I'll see you next Sunday.